Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to do an experiment about latent heat and sensible heat. Sensible heat is the kind of heat that you feel when you go outside. A thermometer picks up sensible heat. If it's too cold, you put your coat on. That's the idea. You can detect it and a thermometer can detect it. But when a liquid changes to a solid or a liquid changes to a gas, you can't detect that heat with a thermometer. That's called latent heat. And that's what this experiment is designed to explore. Okay, here's our equipment. We have a saucepan full of ice, or not quite full of ice. We have a candy thermometer. That thermometer has a probe that goes down in there in the ice, and it's not touching the bottom. It's about halfway between the top of where the ice will be and the bottom of the pan. We have something to stir with, and we have a cup of water, which we'll add in just a second. Now, we also need our computer. We have the instructions on our computer, and we'll also need a way to record our data, and that is right here. So we got a spreadsheet so we can record our data. We need to record it every 30 seconds at the beginning, and so I've got it, you probably can't see it, but I've got it with 0.51, 1.52, 2.53. That's every half minute. We also need a way to keep track of time. Since I'm using my phone, I've got my watch here, but I also have on my computer a clock that I can use. Okay, I'm gonna put my thermometer, well, I gotta add water. I'm gonna add water just to the top of the ice. That should work. I'm going to clip my thermometer, not to the bottom of the pan, but maybe about halfway into the ice water. I can touch the bottom and pull it up a little bit, use my clip to adjust it there. Turn my thermometer on, stir my ice up, and we should approach 32. Okay, I'm at 33, that's as low as I'm gonna get. I'm gonna turn on the heat, but I'm gonna put it on a low setting. So about 2 out of 7 on my knob. That's where I am. So low heat. And now I'm gonna note the time. And in my spreadsheet, I'm gonna say, this is the start. My temperature was 33, somewhere close to freezing. And I'm gonna start the timer. Now after 30 seconds, now notice what's going on here. You can see at the bottom, heat is being added, but the temperature is not changing. Now in order to get this experiment to work right, you got to keep stirring. Lots of ice right now, so it doesn't stir very well, but my temperature is staying at 33. See that right there? Now, I've reached 30 seconds. I'm going to write down in my spreadsheet, 33 degrees still. Okay, now we're going to go for a few more seconds and we'll look for the minute mark. So my experiment's been running for 30 seconds now. Still stirring my ice. Still heat is being added. You can see that blue flame at the bottom. Heat's being added, but the temperature is not changing because it's converting the ice into liquid, and that's not observable with a thermometer. At some point though, the temperature is going to start to rise. And that's been another 30 seconds. So we'll record that. We'll say 35. Now keep timing it. So you get the point. All right, you can see most of the ice is melted. I've been stirring the whole time. My temperature now is 38. So this has been 6 minutes. My temperature is about 44 now. My ice is completely or almost completely melted. I've gone 7 minutes, and there's not a lot of effect now from me stirring this ice because it's so melted. The temperature is just going to rise. To speed up the experiment just a little bit, we're just going to crank the temperature up. Not completely up, but we'll go up to about halfway. 4 out of 7. And now we're going to continue to watch the temperature rise and rise and rise, and we'll see what happens after it rises pretty rapidly. Now I think we can go to just taking temperatures every minute. We're good with that. While we're watching the temperature go up, we've now been 10 minutes and we're almost 80 degrees of the water. Let me point out a couple things. You got to keep stirring. You got to stir it throughout. And keep recording your temperatures every minute. After the ice melts, you can go every minute. Now we're at 86. We've passed 20 minutes and I'm making coffee. You can hear that in the background. And we're at 195. Again, stirring is still important to make sure the thermometer gets the temperature of the whole sample of water. And your stove will likely heat up at a different rate than mine. So it may take you less time, it may take you more time. Okay, at about 20 minutes, 21 minutes and 200 degrees, I'm starting to see some bubbles. So I would note that in my notebook, my spreadsheet, that I'm starting to see a few bubbles. Temperature's still climbing, not quite fully boiling yet. Once you get to fully boiling, then you need to go 5 more minutes. Now we're done with the experimental part. Now let that cool off before you handle it. And we're going to go over to the Excel sheet that we use to calculate and record our data. So you can see my Excel sheet, I've got all my data until 5 minutes, after we started completely boiling the water. And the first part of the experiment, I recorded every 30 seconds until the ice melted. I noted here the ice is mostly melted at 6 minutes, completely gone at 8 minutes. At that point, I turned the heat up, so I made a note of that. And continued to record the temperatures all the way through. When I first started seeing bubbles, I recorded that. When it was fully boiling, I recorded that, and I kept going for a few minutes after that. So I've got all my notes there from my experiment. Now, I want to graph this, see what it looks like over time, and see what's going on. So I'm going to select all of my data. It doesn't matter that I skipped some spaces. Notice that I made space for every 30 seconds, but I don't need that after the ice is melted. All right, then I'm going to go to Insert. Your Excel may be a little different than mine. I'm going to go over to Scatter right here, Insert Scatter Chart. And I'm just going to click the first one, which will be good enough for our purposes. And that's how you do that part of the experiment.